In the heart of a small, forgotten town lay the Whispering Woods, a forest shrouded in mystery. Locals spoke in hushed tones about the place, warning newcomers to never step foot inside. Legend had it that those who entered the woods never came back, at least, not the same. Amma, a newcomer to the town, had never believed in ghost stories. At 17, she prided herself on being rational, skeptical, and above all, unafraid of the unknown. When her classmates dared her to venture into the woods, she smirked and accepted without hesitation.
Just 10 minutes in and out, right?
She confirmed, tying her flashlight to her backpack. Her friend Sarah hesitated.
You hear them, don't listen, okay?
Amma laughed.
Sure, Sarah, I'll try not to chat with invisible people.
The forest was darker than she expected. The canopy above swallowed the moonlight, and the air felt thick and heavy, as though the trees themselves were holding their breaths. The moment she crossed the threshold, an eerie stillness surrounded her. She walked slowly, her flashlight barely piercing the gloom. At first, it was silent, just the crunch of leaves beneath her boots. But then, faintly, she heard it. She froze. It was faint, almost like a breeze, but unmistakable. Someone had whispered her name. She turned around, shining her light in all directions. Nothing, just trees and darkness.
Go back.
The voice was louder this time, echoing in her ears. It wasn't Sarah's voice, nor any of her friends. It was deeper, colder, and seemed to come from everywhere at once. Amma took a shaky breath and pushed forward, determined to prove it was all just in her head. But the deeper she went, the louder the whispers became. They weren't just one voice anymore. There were men, women, children murmuring in unison.
Leave. One. Hide.
Panic began to creep in. She whipped out her phone to check the time, but the screen glitched, flickering with static. Her flashlight flickered too, plunging her into near darkness. Suddenly, the ground shifted beneath her feet. Roots twisted and writhed like serpents, tripping her as she stumbled back. She hit the ground hard, her flashlight rolling away. In its dim beam, she saw a figure, tall, gaunt-shaped with hollow, glowing eyes. Its mouth stretched open, impossibly wide. And from it came the whispers, overlapping and growing louder. Amma scrambled backward, heart pounding. This isn't real, she whispered to herself. The figure tilted its head, its hollow eyes locking onto hers. Then it spoke, in a voice that drowned out all others.
You were warned.
Amma screamed and turned to run, but the forest had changed. The path was gone, replaced by an endless maze of trees. The whispers became a deafening roar. She ran blindly, tripping over roots and branches, until she burst into a clearing. There, in the center, stood a massive tree, its gnarled branches stretching out like claws. At its base, something glinted in the faint moonlight. Amma staggered closer, her breath itching. It was her phone. She stared, confused, before a horrifying realization hit her. This wasn't her phone, it was someone else's. Around the tree, she saw more glimmers. Dozens of phones, each cracked and covered in dirt, lay scattered like offerings. She picked one up and turned it over, her hands trembling. On the screen was a video, and in it was a girl. Her own face, pale and terrified, staring back at her. The whispers grew louder again, but this time, they formed words she couldn't ignore.
It's your turn.
The phone in her hand suddenly turned to ash, and the clearing plunged into darkness. The next morning, Emma's friends gathered nervously by the forest's edge. Sarah held up her phone, scrolling through messages.
She hasn't replied since last night.
Sarah said, her voice shaking.
Do we call the cops?
Another friend asked. Before they could decide, Sarah's phone buzzed. A new message appeared in their group chat. It was from Emma. The text read, "The woods are beautiful. Come see for yourself." But Sarah froze as she looked closer. The profile photo next to Emma's name had changed. It wasn't Emma's face anymore, it was the glowing, hollow eyes of the creature.